Jones, the Chief Privacy Officer for New York State Office of Information Technology Services. On behalf of New York State's Chief Information Officer, Angelo Riddick, and the entire state agency, we would like to welcome you and compliment you on your participation in this important process. This hearing is being recorded. The recording and the ITS slide presentation will be posted to our website within the next few days following this event. Also joining us tonight from ITS are General Counsel Marcy Stevens, Deputy General Counsel Valerie Lubanko, attorneys Clinton Rickards and Karen Kimball, and members of the communication team. Joining us tonight from the State Education Department, our Chief Privacy Officer, Louise DeCandia, and Senior Attorney, Tanya Davis. We have a very brief agenda for the hearing. I'll lead us through the introduction. We will invite participants to offer testimony. We will show ways to participate, and we will conclude. Prior to tonight's hearing, ITS invited the public input to provide input and present testimony. The following presenters will offer testimony during this hearing. Leonie Hameson, co-chair of the Parent Coalition for Student Privacy. Jason Kelly, associate, Electronic Frontier Foundation. Juan Miguel, program associate, New York Civil Liberties Union. Jake Parker, Security Industry Association, and James Schultz, the Democracy Center. To get started, let's begin the discussion about why we are here tonight. For more than a year now, ITS has partnered with the State Education Department to gather feedback from teachers, school administrators, parents, individuals with expertise in school safety, data privacy, civil liberties, civil rights, and other stakeholder groups on the use of biometric identifying technology in schools to prepare a report as required by Section 106B of the Technology Law. Tonight is an opportunity for these groups to provide oral testimony on this topic in furtherance of that effort. Here's a brief review of the definition of biometric identifying technology that is under consideration for use in public and non-public schools. Biometric identification technology is any tool using an automated or semi-automated process that assists in verifying a person's identity based on a person's biometric information. This includes facial recognition technology, fingerprinting, and technology that measures eye and vocal characteristics. No decisions are being made tonight, nor will this public hearing be the sole factor in making any determinations. Individuals providing testimony for tonight's virtual public hearing each have up to 3 minutes to speak. As a reminder, the state reserves the right to limit or end any testimony that is harassing, threatening, or abusive. Valerie Lubanko will provide a visual warning when you have 30 seconds left. And after 3 minutes, we will ask you to please wrap up your testimony. When it is your time to speak, you will be given a prompt to unmute yourself. If you have any technical issues, please send a message in the chat to David Stern. If you did not sign up to testify during this public hearing, There are other ways to provide feedback. Interested parties may submit comments via an online survey, mail, phone, or email. Nearly 1,000 individuals and organizations have already provided feedback. The contact information is on the screen and may also be found on the ITS website. With that, we are ready to begin. Leonie Hameson, please unmute yourself. And once you are ready, you may begin your testimony.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello, my name's Leonie Hameson. I'm the co-chair of the Parent Coalition for Student Privacy, a nonpartisan organization of parents and privacy activists from throughout the nation. We would like to, we formed in 2014 after many of our members, including those in New York State, led campaigns against the massive data collection company called InBloom. This awareness led to the passage of more than 100 student privacy laws being passed in many states, including here in New York as Education Law 2D. We concur with many of the NYCLU comments concerning the risks of biometric data collection and disclosure, particularly given how this data can be used in discriminatory ways. We would also like to point out that the statewide moratorium on the sharing of biometric student data has been violated by many New York districts that continue to use third-party apps that collect and share the visual images of students. For example, many school districts across the state are using Huddle, which makes and markets videos of student athletes to colleges and universities. This not only violates the moratorium, but also, as Huddle sells this student data to colleges, this appears to violate state education law 2D. And yet Huddle claims on its website that the state education department actually encourages its use by subsidizing its purchase price by districts. Many schools, including here in New York, are using GoGuardian, a program that enables school staff to monitor students when they're working on their computers, either at home or at school. In districts such as Chicago, scandals have erupted, showing that Google Suite's default setting allows teachers to spy into students' home without their knowledge or consent by calling up Google Meet, even before the student had agreed to start the meeting or knew it was taking place. As NYCLU has pointed out, while GoGuardian markets this technology in a way to keep kids safe, it may also use untested algorithms and biometric monitoring. Bloomberg News reported in October 2021 that the Department of Education in New York City had signed a contract with the company, bringing GoGuardian's potential reach to more than 23 million students. And yet when we filed a FOIL request to the state controller's office for contracts between the DOE and GoGuardian, they said that there were none. And in fact, the DOE was asked by a member of the Panel for Educational Policy, which is our school board, for the contract. DOE said they had no contract with GoGuardian, but they were able to make this product available to all schools through the G Suite Google Workspace license. So we believe that by allowing these companies like GoGuardian to access biometric data from students, this not only violates the moratorium, but also without any contract, it violates 2D, and we have no idea how that data is being sold, shared with others, and potentially abused. Thank you.
Thank you. Jason Kelly, please unmute yourself. And once you are ready, you may begin your testimony.
Hi there. My name is Jason Kelly. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you all. I'm the Associate Director of Digital Strategy at the Electronic Frontier Foundation. I'm also the co-lead of our Student Privacy Working Group. And if you don't know about EFF as an organization, we work to ensure that technology supports freedom, justice, and innovation for all the people of the world. We're a nonprofit, and we're supported primarily by member donations. We have dues-paying members around the world, including nearly 2,000 members in the state of New York. I think a lot of people today are going to talk about biometric technology specifically. So rather than do that, I wanted to talk about a pattern that we've seen in schools. As the co-lead of our Student Privacy Working Group, I've spent a lot of time looking at this, and I've noticed that in the last 5 years in particular, we've watched this pattern be repeated again and again across the country. It starts when a new surveillance technology is introduced and one or two schools roll it out, usually quietly in just a couple of places, often with little awareness by the students or the parents. And sometimes the teachers themselves don't even know that the technology is going to be implemented until it's already put in place. And then within either the first few months or maybe the first few years of that technology being implemented, an intrepid reporter will investigate the technology and they'll release stories showing that it isn't perfect, that it's even caused problems for students, but also that more schools are installing it every year despite its flaws. The vendors will be blitzing the schools with marketing materials and sales reps, and despite the negative stories, over time, more schools will install it. And then something terrible happens where the technology very clearly harms a student. Often that's a marginalized student who is gay or black or brown. Within a month, there are new stories, more specific stories about how using the technology is a real trade-off between privacy and safety. But a few months go by, maybe more years, and even more students are harmed by the technology. News reports continue to trickle out about its dangers, but in many ways, it's too late. The technology is already at that point in hundreds of schools, despite its inaccuracy, its cost, and the real harms that it causes. And no one except the vendors frequently can point to any actual improvement that the technology provides in safety or efficiency. And because we desperately want to protect our students, we don't debate removing the dangerous technology or ending its use. Instead, officials accept that it's now got a place in our schools, despite its dangers. And I would urge you just not to take this path with biometric technology because we know how it will end. Use of facial recognition and other similar forms of biometric technology by schools is dangerous, as EFF and many others have shown. It's not effective, it's not necessary, and it will be very, very difficult to stop once we allow it to be used. Thank you so much for your time and for your consideration on this.
Thank you. Juan Miguel, please unmute yourself. And once you are ready, you may begin your testimony.
Good evening. My name is Juan Miguel. I'm the program associate at the New York Civil Liberties Union, the New York State affiliate of the ACLU. The NYCOU does not support the use of biometric identifying technology in schools. The benefits of these systems in an educational setting, specifically facial recognition technology, are outweighed by the harms of the tech. First, there are well-documented issues with the accuracy and bias of facial recognition technology, particularly when used to identify women and people of color. As with any artificial intelligence, biometric surveillance carries the biases of the people who design it and the information used to train it. For example, the Lockport City School District purchased a system where Black women are 16 times more likely to be misidentified than white men. Second, these systems infringe on the privacy rights of students, parents, and staff. Student images are a protected part of a student's biometric record, included in the definition of personally identifiable information under FERPA and New York's Education Law 2D. Once an individual's photo is uploaded to a school facial recognition system, the system will track that person's movements around the school and with whom they've interacted. These systems can turn students and staff members every step into evidence of an infraction or crime, can trace a student's use of sensitive surfaces such as the nurse's or counselor's office, and can be used to criminalize ordinary child behavior and personal interaction. These systems can even be used with immigration enforcement databases, meaning students could be targeted by immigration authorities simply for coming to school, putting themselves and their families at risk of deportation. Third, the use of this technology raises concerns about data maintenance and retention. For example, how long the associated data will be retained, how securely it will be stored, who will pay for the upkeep of the additional data storage, who will have access to it, and how it may be shared, including any connection to law enforcement databases. Fourth, these systems, like all databases, are vulnerable to hacking. But unlike passwords or credit card numbers, a person's biometric information is highly sensitive and cannot be changed if there's a security breach. Storing massive amounts of data collected from children, parents, and school employees raises the risk that personally identifiable information may be hacked, stolen, or sold. Fifth, these systems can cost millions of dollars, taking vital funding away from instruction. EdTech, including school surveillance, has become a lucrative industry for private vendors and security consultants who see the deep pockets of public funding and may take advantage of schools' well-intended efforts to protect students. These systems are often implemented without full transparency and input from critical stakeholders. Private vendors are incentivized to conceal system information to protect proprietary interests. Internationally,
Yes.
Multiple countries have fined or prohibited the use of facial recognition technology in schools. In Sweden, there was a pilot program to test facial recognition for taking attendance, and it violated the GDPR and wasn't allowed. In France, there was a free pilot launched by Cisco that had cameras installed at the entrances of 2 high schools to control the entrance gate. Notably, this pilot would not have been allowed to launch in San Francisco, where they're headquartered, due to the ban on the technology. The ever-expanding deployments of biometric surveillance and the immense risks associated
Mr. Miguel, your 3 minutes are up.
All right.
Please conclude your testimony.
Okay. The ever-expanding deployments of biometric surveillance and the immense risk associated underscore the immediate need for a ban on biometric surveillance by the government, particularly schools, by law enforcement, and other areas where our fundamental rights are at stake. It's critical that you ban the use of facial recognition in schools to prevent the children of New York from being guinea pigs for inaccurate, biased, invasive, and expensive technology. Thank you.
Thank you. Jake Parker, please unmute yourself. And once you're ready, you may begin your testimony.
Hi, I'm Jake Parker here with the Security Industry Association, representing safety and security technology suppliers, including more than 70 companies headquartered in New York. First, New York has a very robust law and regulations that enable student data privacy in any technology applications. There's no reason why voluntary biometric-enabled identity verification for services cannot meet these conditions, and thus little justification for extending the current sweeping ban. But I'd like to address the use of facial recognition specifically because there's been a lot of misunderstandings about this and the very limited use of the technology and security systems in the pilot project in the state as part of the restriction. It's also being piloted elsewhere in the country for similar purposes. These are not for tracking students, it's for helping security staff screen visitors against a list of persons prohibited for entering school property following an assessment by the threat assessment team of the district. Every district must do this, whether they're not assisted by technology. This can be as simple as posting photos of these individuals in the front office. As you can imagine, that's not very effective. We understand from staff in that district during the short period it was operational that it flagged several individuals who entered school grounds despite legally imposed restrictions. Importantly, it doesn't identify individuals, but simply flags them for staff responsible for security to follow up. The value of these systems are endorsed by experts in the school safety community. In most of the mass shooting attacks in our schools in recent years, the perpetrator had made threats and was known to the local community. Any delay in response to such incidents can cost lives. There isn't any threat to student privacy or data from such a system in which no student images or data are retained. And for visitors, there's no impact on privacy or any change in expectations regarding anonymity. Everybody understands that you're being recorded the moment you set foot on school property with good reasons. I'm sure many of us can think of ways we may not want the technology used in schools, but there's little justification for keeping out of the hands of those who are responsible for the safety of our children with such a potentially valuable school for security purposes. These systems can be implemented in ways that protect privacy and the rights of community members if done in a properly transparent manner. Thank you.
Thank you. And James Schultz, please unmute yourself. And then once you're ready, you may begin your testimony.
All right, there we go. Sorry about that. All right. Greetings, everybody from Lockport. My name is Jim Schultz. And as you know, we were the official guinea pig here in the Lockport district for this technology. The last testimony, I think, is really important because it reminds us how deeply eager there are people to make a lot of money off this technology, and how really distant their analysis and theories are from the realities, certainly as we experienced them here in Lockport. I just want to make 3 points about the lessons that the Lockport system teaches us. First of all, despite its enormous cost, the district spent $2.7 million of its smart schools bond money on this. That's more than $600 per pupil in this district. The premise of the system was just stupid from the start, which is that somehow the school district or other officials were going to predict in advance who a school shooter was going to be, put them in that system, in that database, and that if they got anywhere near the school and were stupid enough not to wear a mask, that we would somehow get a real-time alert and use that to prevent the shooting. Nobody knows in advance who the school shooters are going to be. And once they're there and on the school campus, the only alarm you're going to need is the shooting and the screaming. The idea that we are in real time going to do something about this with these systems is foolish. And in fact, the system made our students much more at risk. This gun identification technology produced so many false alerts that the company actually told the school district to ignore them. Because if any of those false warnings, or a false warning because of it being a student of color that got misidentified, if any of those has gotten through to the Lockport Police Department, the chief of police has said it would be treated like a live shooter situation, and they would have sent armed police officers into the school on a false alarm. That does not make our children any safer. I'm a parent and a grandparent in Lockport, and I can tell you this is how people feel here. Second, this is a gross violation of student privacy. The salesman for this project boasted to the school board that it has this retroactive interrogation capacity to literally go back and map everywhere the student has been in every association that they've had. That's not a school security protocol. That's about using high-tech cameras to violate student rights in order to keep them disciplined. Finally, school boards like Lockport, and this is a really important point, they're not in a position to evaluate this technology. This is not being driven by school boards. It's not being driven by bona fide security experts. It's being driven by an industry that sees a market using state funds, and that is not the kind of thing we should be doing in New York State. We're very fortunate to have this freeze in place, and what we need is a permanent ban. Thank you very much for your time and attention.
Thank you. So please note the public comment period closes October 28th. And once the public comment period closes, ITS will collaborate with the State Education Department and the stakeholders outlined in State Technology Law 106B to consider and evaluate all information to develop the ITS final report, which will be submitted to the SED Commissioner, as well as the Legislature and Governor, and made publicly available. On behalf of ITS Chief Information Officer Angelo Riddick, our panel members, and representatives from the State Education Department, thank you all for joining us for tonight's hearing. We value your feedback and appreciate your patience while we prepare our report. The report will be issued once all information is collected and analyzed. As a reminder, you may submit comments via phone, mail, email, or the online survey, which are all available on the ITS website. This concludes tonight's hearing.